Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Craig Fulton with Evergreen, and I'm here to make sure you get the most value out of your business. And today we're here to talk about how we operate with MSPs, and I'm excited to be joined by.
Elliott Hyman. I'm the CEO of Lyra Technology Group, which is one of the three MSP groups within Evergreen.
Yeah, and if you've tuned in to some of our other videos, you heard Sydney Hockett talk about, how we do business, how we take our MSPs and we put them into groups. And Elliott, you lead the Lyra group. Tell me some details about that group.
Sure. So Lyra Technology Group today is composed of 20 MSPs across the Northeast, Midwest, and Canada.
Yeah.
We've been building our group since the end of 2017 with the first MSP that Evergreen invested in, Wolf Consulting. Today we have 1,000 plus employees and 200 plus million of revenue across the group.
It's incredible because, um, look, I think you're one of the unsung heroes of the managed service industry because, dare I say, probably the largest gathering of MSPs, and you're making it happen. So I think it's important that we get into some of the details there because someone that's looking to sell their business should understand the great things you're doing that gets shared across all of the Evergreen MSPs. So, um, tell me a little bit about the journey, right? I know that in Lyra, you were a part of one of the very first MSPs we acquired. So to put our money where our mouth is, we talk about we don't change the brand, we don't change this, and we help businesses grow. What was that company?
Yeah. So at the beginning of 2018, I joined Wolf Consulting, which we are proud to say by, I believe, 1 or 2 minutes is officially the first MSP that Evergreen invested in, the second being Executech in Salt Lake. So I joined Wolf Consulting as Director of Business Development at the beginning of 2018, working under the founder of the business, Lloyd Wolf. Lloyd had made the courageous step of being the first MSP to partner with Evergreen.
Yeah.
I moved with my then fiance, now wife, from Chicago to Pittsburgh, and spent about 15 months as director of business development there, leading our new logo efforts. Then became the CEO at the beginning of 2019 when Lloyd chose to retire, and continued to be the CEO through the end of 2022.
And then stepped up into a operating CEO role of several MSPs and have been adding them in. So where does Wolf stand now, right? Because again, I talk to a lot of MSP owners and they're the thing about selling, and when I tell them we don't change the brand, we don't change, they're like, that's impossible. Eventually something happens. I mean, we're going on almost 6 years. How's that business doing?
Yeah, and we've been hearing that since the very beginning, that
Yeah.
sort of one day this would all change, and sure, it sounds good now, but when you guys get to a bigger scale, there's no way you can do it this way, right?
Right.
So very proud to say that Wolf Consulting is still operating as it always has, as an independent business in Monroeville, PA. Are grown quite a bit, doubled revenue in the business, almost 4x EBITDA in the business over the last almost 6 years. Staff has grown, well over 50% in that time, and the leadership team that joined us on day one is largely still intact.
Yeah. That it's just a testament to, the great things you're doing and living by what Evergreen says, right? Um, so let's get into a little deeper. In another video we met with Tim and he talked about what it's like for a business owner to report in, but let's focus a little on people because you've got some phenomenal people numbers, and a lot of business owners get concerned with that. It's like, I've got this team and they've been here and I want to make sure they're taken care of. And like, what has that journey been like for the people inside of managed service practices?
Yeah. I always, this is, for the type of business owner that wants to partner with Evergreen and is the right fit to partner with Evergreen, what happens to their people is a primary concern. And we talk
Yeah.
about it all the time. These are the folks that took you over a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades to where you are today. And you want to make sure that this outcome is good for them and secures their future. it's one of the biggest things that we focus on, and frankly is a pretty significant differentiation versus some of the other folks that are out there. So, you know, I always sort of give the analogy of, the typical private equity backed MSP consolidator is looking down your employee roster and saying, oh, this is an admin finance person that gets paid X. We can cut this person out of the business because we have our finance team here. And so, and what they don't know is, let's say that person is, Bob or Sally, Bob and Sally are not just that job, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Bob and Sally is the person who brings in cookies every Friday for the team. And, the first thing you're doing as the new owner of the business is, cookies are gone, Bob and Sally are gone. And, that's what your people are seeing as what's important to the organization.
Right.
So we take the complete opposite approach, and I think it's a benefit of, Evergreen, how we started. The fundamental premise was this is a, permanent home for your business. We're not thinking in a 3 to 5 year time period, where we're just trying to, cut every person that we can and, maximize earnings so we can flip the business to a new owner, in a short period of time. We're thinking about what's the best thing for the business over 10, 20, 30 plus years. And in the scope of that time frame, I'd much rather have Sally bringing in cookies than save her salary or his salary, for a quick buck.
Well, it creates the culture, and that has a ripple effect through the business, and I admire that you see that and know that, and foster that continues on. So,
Well,
um,
can I just jump in there, Craig? And I think this is also so important on this point. The reason that me and my colleagues know that is because we've lived it, right? So I was showing up every day to the Wolf Consulting office and, formed deep relationships with all of the team members there. They're not just, names and numbers on a roster. They're people that I have relationships with. And so anytime we go into a transaction today, I'm thinking of, I might not know the specific person today, but I know someone who is in a similar role very deeply, and I know what they contribute to the business every day. So I think because we started, myself and my colleagues, operating in MSPs and showing up every day and wearing the shirt and going to the, and being on the softball team and going to the holiday party, like it makes it, it's a different perspective than I think a lot of other, folks doing similar things to what we do have.
Yeah, it really is incredible, and because people have this notion that private equity is a little different than that, but the hold forever mentality changes the game. So you brought up some important points there. I want to dive into, and it is a little bit of a subject change. So I think it shows that you have full autonomy and authority to do whatever it takes, right? You don't have the Evergreen holding company poking at you. Are you doing this? Are you doing that? You and your leaders are pretty much free to do what you feels right, right?
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. And it's been, one of the best parts about operating as part of the Evergreen family. Um, we set up alignment within our system from Evergreen to me to all of our operating companies. And then we're trusted to go chase after our goals and achieve what we need to achieve. And it's really fundamental to how we think these businesses operate best, which is, I'll give you an example. If, you as an individual MSP have an unhappy customer, and they come to you and you need to make some type of adjustment to their service plan or to their billing, the idea that you would have to call up corporate or headquarters to do that, when, how could I possibly know what the right decision is? How could I have enough data points to make that decision from where I sit, whether it's in my basement or elsewhere,
Yeah.
about what's the best thing to do for that customer. Like, best. And Evergreen takes the same approach, and that's what we,
Yeah.
do with all the businesses that are part of the group as well. They trust that,
Yeah.
we have more data points and
Yeah.
we can make the right decision.
I think that could be summed up with one sentence. The entrepreneurial spirit lives on, right? It lives on. So while we're talking about that, right, the entrepreneurial spirit, I love to ask this question of anyone operating MSPs here is for the business owner that's looking at their options. Like, what am I going to do with this business next? The first thing that comes to their mind, we're talking people, we're all people, it's totally normal. Wait, I have to report to someone? This is the first thing they're thinking. Um, I've never had to do that. The reason I did this thing is so that I wouldn't have to report to someone. And I think that you have a phenomenal thing you're doing there. Explain a little bit about what that's like when someone sells their business in, they become a part of Lyra, and now they report to you.
Yeah, sure. So, one of the foundational ideas that we have across Lyra is, we want to unleash, entrepreneurial behavior at scale, right? So
Yeah,
we want to have really meaningful scale. But most of us know who have spent time in entrepreneurial roles that, that's how you get stuff done. Uh,
yeah,
you know, so that's what we want to preserve. You know, in our group, as we've scaled, we have some business leaders that report to me. We have some, report, and I always kind of give air quotes there because, like,
yeah,
it's a partnership. I have, a good way to, like, kind of ruffle my feathers. I've had a couple of our sellers do this. Is like, oh, I got my boss here or something like that, and I'm just like, I just eye roll because it's like,
yeah,
dude, we are in this together. Like,
yeah,
like I am, like,
yeah,
that is foundational to the way we operate. Is like,
yeah,
we're on the same team, we're on the same side of the table.
yeah,
If and we're working on stuff together when it makes sense, and, like, you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing, and if we're both doing our thing well, we're going to win together. And
yeah,
that's kind of how we approach it. I don't think, I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone leading one of our businesses that feels like, you know, uh, would say the word boss in any way other than, to mess with me.
yeah. I feel this. I laugh so hard because I always felt the same way, right? When I my career progressed and I started having people report to me, I'm like, please don't ever use that word. Like, just call me your colleague or teammate. Like, and I love that you feel the same way. And another thing I want to kind of dive into then is, um, for someone then it's like, all right, I'm going to be a part of this bigger thing, and we're all on the same team. Um, what do most people go through that you would have advice for them as they're thinking about this?
Yeah, and I have these conversations, pretty regularly now.
Yeah,
I think it's really important that someone, having not gone through this experience myself, but having been, able to see now a significant number of people, relatively significant number of people go through the experience, like, you got to be really clear on what you want the outcome to be for you, for your family, for your team, for the
mhm,
business, right?
yeah,
And it's not the same for everyone. Like, there are people who are, if you're weighing those things, they're 100% on, one of those four, and if that's the case, then they should make the decision, based on that. But just be really clear about how much you're weighing each one of those outcomes, and then
yeah,
try to find the partner that, hits hits as many of them as they can, to the extent, to the greatest extent that they can. I mean, I always tell folks who are either, considering partnering with us, or, maybe we're going through diligence or even post close, like, I want you to have an 11 out of 10 experience. The best way for that to happen is for you to be really clear about what your goals are, communicate those goals, and, like, let's work together on giving you, your team members, your family, your business that 11 out of 10 experience. But you got to decide what that looks like first.
yeah, yeah. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. And so I guess we'll wrap this up. But before we go, I always like to give someone an opportunity. Like, do you have any last words for someone that's tuned in and thinking about this?
Yeah,
I know
I
I put you on the spot. So.
yeah, just have, do you have any wisdom ready just in your back
Yeah.
pocket? No, listen, I'm
This is
not.
how we get the most genuine responses.
Yeah, you could have sent me a message on the side first, like, and you got to have your zinger at the end. I think it goes back to actually that last point of like, whether you're ready to do something now or it's something you're thinking about in the future, be really take the time. And it's so hard because we're all running really hard. So if you're leading a business, you're an owner of a business,
Yeah.
it's taking 150% of your, time, mental capacity, never mind all the things that you have going on outside of work, right? So
Okay.
it can be really hard to take a step back and really uh, do, do the sort of hard thinking and
Yeah.
of what you want, right? It can be one of the hardest things for a person to do is to really
Yeah.
say, like, be intentional, right? But
Yeah.
I think that's, the best outcomes I've seen are people who are crystal clear on what they wanted this to look like and continually communicated to whether it was us or other potential partners, like, this is what I want it to look like.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and I bring back, to bring us back to the beginning of the conversation, someone who I thought was fantastic at this was Lloyd Wolf,
Yeah.
in doing the transaction with Evergreen initially. It was, he put a very high priority on what happened to his team members, and what happened to the business. And um, you know, and we've kind of taken what's happened there as, in some ways, the blueprint for what we'd like to see happen at all of our companies, right? Continue to
Yeah.
grow, continue to take care of the people that are there, and kind of just build on that legacy.
Yeah.
So I think that would be my on the spot
Yeah.
thoughts.
All right. All right. Thanks, Elliot. I love it. And for those tuned in, you might be thinking, well, how do I get value out of being a part of this? Make sure you check out the video with Jake, who works on the Lyra team. Jake gets into some of the, here's specific things we do to continue to grow business and work together. So be sure to check that out. Elliot, thanks again. Appreciate having you here.
Greg, really appreciate the time. This was great. And
All
if
right.
anyone wants to reach out, please do. It's EHYMAN, Hyman at lyratechgroup.com.
You heard it here first. He's always willing to help. Again, whether you're going to be a part of it or not, we want to see an industry prosper. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.